with another episode of Tips for Gold. This week we're going to be looking at presence. So this week we're going to be looking at presence. No, not this type of presence. The type of presence that is using the fact that your champion even exists to gain an advantage in your games. We're going to be looking at what presence is exactly, how presence is useful, how to use that presence, and of course some tips and tricks to help you be more present on the map. To put it simply, presence is defined as the state or fact of existing or being present. In League of Legends, presence is simply using the fact that you are around to influence your enemy's decision making. Presence is one of the major components of mind play in League. Think of it as like body language. Now, studies suggest that 70% of communication is non-verbal, and presence in League of Legends is using your champion's body movements to give your enemy information that could change his way of thinking into your favor. Presence is something never really talked about in League tutorials. Nobody mentions it, and it's something that a lot of pros do often without thinking about it. Presence is an extremely useful tool in League because it can be used even when you have no health, no mana, or no resources at all. It can be used to deter enemies from chasing low allies. It can be used to confuse your enemy or cause them to hesitate and miss an opportunity. But most importantly, it can be used to change an enemy decision, and that is a powerful thing. If you are able to convince your enemy to do something that you want him to do, or at least something else and not what he was going to do, you control the game. To use presence to your advantage, you need to interrupt your enemy's decision-making process and give him new information that'll present a better decision. To do this, you first need to understand how a decision in League of Legends is made. Now, for more on this, I did make a video last week that you can check out if you get lost. So to interrupt an enemy's decision-making process, you first need to predict what he's trying to achieve. And most of the time, this isn't difficult. Is he chasing Israel? Then yeah, he's trying to kill Israel. Once you know what he's trying to do, you either need to do one of two things. 1, up the perceived risk, or 2, give him a better alternative. Now, to up the risk, all you need to do is make him second guess himself. You could do this by either making him think that there are other allies around, like running towards a bush and then turning around as if you were trying to bait him into it. Basically, you need to feed him false information to make his current decision an obviously bad one. And this is what you can do with presence. You can see here in my example that even though I am extremely low and I have no way to help out my ally, by just using my skills and not letting the enemy see me, he has to assume that I'm full health and ready to help, and that makes him decide to back off. The second way to use your presence to misdirect your enemy is to give them a better alternative, and most of the time, this means you. So to do this, you need to understand a new principle we're going to call the safety buffer. The safety buffer is the effective range that your enemy can damage you at. And as you can see here, Udyr has an effective range which is very small. He has no ranged abilities, so I am safe from his damage anywhere outside that range. Now, the further away I am, the bigger my safety buffer is. Now, you can use this by getting closer and closer to the edge of that buffer until you make him think that you would be an easier target. In this clip here, you can see that Udyr is chasing Israel again. And I get right up close to him and try and make him change targets, knowing that I could outrun him, but Israel couldn't. I keep doing this until he makes a decision to chase me, in which case he's already lost Israel and we both get away. So using this technique effectively, I managed to save Israel with no health, no mana, and no spells. The bush blink is a great way to abuse your presence. Remember that presence isn't always about being seen, it's about feeding your enemy false information. The bush blink is a gank technique that you can use by stepping into a bush, and then walking in and out of it really quick, and then leaving. Now, this will make the enemy laner think that you did it by accident, and there's a high chance that he'll start playing passively because he thinks that you might hope he didn't see it and you'll be waiting in the bush still. You can use this time to loop around and gank from another angle or even hit another lane. The other technique you can use is to play in lane as if your jungler is ready to gank and create pressure. It's most commonly seen done with Thresh by throwing his lantern out to a random bush, which makes the enemy think that your jungler is ready to grab it. But it can be done with any champion just by standing in a spot that would usually be unsafe, but would only be safe if you had your jungler there. And you can use that to bluff them into creating pressure. Now, too often I see people with full HP and full mana running for their lives, when they would be perfectly safe kiting back and using their presence to help you. Now, I'm not saying that you should dive deep into the team in suicide, even if it's a losing fight, but use the fact that you have the ability to capitalize on any mistakes that they make them second guess themselves and maybe not dive in on that low ally next to you. Just to be there and be confident. So, that's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned something from our second episode ever of Tips for Gold. I'd love for you to leave me some suggestions down below on the level of content and what you'd like to see in coming weeks. So until next time, Scurbs out.